The 1960s didn't just give us peace, love, and rock and roll. Behind the flower power and folk festivals, radio stations, government agencies, and moral watchdogs were waging war against songs they deemed too dangerous for public consumption. From FBI investigations to Ed Sullivan Show bans, these tracks sparked outrage, protests, and sometimes even congressional hearings. These are the 10 most controversial banned rock songs from the 60s. Number 10. My Generation by The Who. When The Who released their anthem of youth rebellion in 1965, the BBC didn't ban it for its defiant message or Pete Townshend's guitar-smashing antics. Instead, they pulled it from the airwaves because Roger Daltrey stuttered through the vocals, and censors worried it might offend listeners with genuine speech impediments.
Don't you fade away.
The irony was impossible to ignore. Here was a song that perfectly captured the generational divide of the mid-60s, and it was being censored for the most unexpected reason imaginable. Some rumors even suggested that when Daltrey sang the stuttered words, he was actually disguising profanity, though the band always denied this. The controversy only added to the song's rebellious credentials. British teenagers who couldn't hear it on the BBC found other ways to discover it, turning it into an underground anthem, before it eventually received wider airplay. The BBC's ban inadvertently proved the song's own point about the older generation not understanding youth culture. Radio programmers who initially supported the ban later reversed their decision, recognizing that they had perhaps been overly cautious. The song went on to reach number 2 on the UK singles chart and became one of The Who's signature tracks, forever associated with the spirit of 60s rebellion. Number 9. Brown-Eyed Girl by Van Morrison. Van Morrison's seemingly innocent pop song about teenage romance became controversial for one key reason: its original references to physical intimacy between young people. Radio stations balked at certain implications in the lyrics, forcing Morrison to make changes that softened the song's more suggestive elements. Originally titled with different racial references, the song underwent multiple revisions before its 1967 release. The final version that reached radio still contained enough romantic suggestion to make some programmers uncomfortable, particularly the references to young people being alone together in intimate settings.
A brown-eyed girl.
This represented the second time Morrison found himself dealing with radio censorship. His earlier work had also faced scrutiny for content that stations deemed inappropriate for their audiences. The pattern showed how even relatively mainstream pop songs could run afoul of broadcasting standards. Despite the editing and radio resistance, the song became one of Morrison's biggest hits and remains a beloved classic. The controversy seems quaint by today's standards, but it reflected the conservative broadcasting climate that many artists faced during the decade. The success of the cleaned-up version proved that artists could work within the system's constraints while still creating memorable music. However, it also demonstrated how much creative control musicians sometimes had to surrender to reach wider audiences.
Do you remember when we used to sing?
Number 8. Eve of Destruction by Barry Maguire.
Tell me over and over and over again.
This apocalyptic protest song struck fear into the hearts of radio programmers across America in 1965. With its blunt lyrics about nuclear war, civil rights struggles, and political hypocrisy, the track was deemed too controversial for many stations, despite climbing to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100.
We're on the eve of destruction.
The song's writer, P.F. Sloan, crafted lyrics that directly confronted the social and political tensions of the mid-60s. Radio stations worried that playing such material would be seen as taking political sides during an increasingly polarized time in American history.
Tell me over and over and over again.
A BC radio network banned the song entirely, while the Christian anti-communist crusade launched attacks against it. Critics labeled it unpatriotic and dangerous, arguing that it presented too negative a view of American society. The controversy extended beyond music into political commentary and social debate.
Pounding of the drums, the pride and disgrace you can bury.
Despite widespread banning, the song's popularity couldn't be stopped. Underground radio stations, college DJs, and word-of-mouth promotion helped it reach audiences who were hungry for music that addressed the serious issues of their time. The bans actually increased demand for the record. The success of such a controversial song demonstrated the power of music to address social issues, even when facing institutional resistance. It paved the way for other protest songs and helped establish folk rock as a vehicle for political expression.
You don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.
Number 7. Light My Fire by The Doors.
Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby.
The Doors' psychedelic masterpiece ran into trouble not just for its musical innovation, but for what censors interpreted as drug references in its lyrics. Ed Sullivan's television show initially welcomed the band, but demanded they change specific words before their live performance.
No time to wallow in the mire. Try now.
Jim Morrison agreed to the changes during rehearsal, but deliberately sang the original lyrics during the live broadcast. This act of defiance got the Doors permanently banned from the show and created one of television's most famous moments of rock rebellion. The controversy stemmed from the song's psychedelic imagery and references to altered states of consciousness. In an era when authorities were becoming increasingly concerned about drug culture's influence on youth, any song with ambiguous lyrics about getting higher faced scrutiny.
Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby.
Radio stations across the country debated whether to play the song. Some banned it outright, while others played edited versions or relegated it to late-night programming, when fewer parents were likely to be listening with their children. The Ed Sullivan incident became part of rock mythology, representing the growing divide between the establishment and the counterculture. The Doors' willingness to sacrifice television exposure for artistic integrity earned them credibility with fans who valued authenticity over commercial success.
Try to set the night on fire. Try to set-
Number 6. Let's Spend the Night Together by the Rolling Stones. When the Rolling Stones were invited to perform on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1967, producers insisted they change this song's sexually suggestive title and lyrics. The band reluctantly agreed to sing alternative words, but Mick Jagger's eye-rolling performance made it clear what he really thought of the censorship. The compromise satisfied neither side. Censors still felt the performance was inappropriate, while fans saw it as the band selling out their rebellious image. Ed Sullivan was so displeased that he banned the Rolling Stones from ever appearing on his show again. Radio stations had been struggling with the song since its release. Its explicit celebration of physical relationships was considered too adult for general airplay, especially during daytime hours when younger listeners were in the audience. Some stations created their own edited versions, while others relegated the song to late-night programming. The controversy highlighted the ongoing tension between rock music's growing sophistication and broadcasting standards that hadn't evolved to match. The incident became emblematic of the broader cultural conflicts of the 60s. Traditional authorities were trying to maintain control over public morality, while a new generation of artists and fans were pushing for greater freedom of expression. Number 5. A Day in the Life by the Beatles.
I read the news today, oh boy.
The Beatles' experimental masterpiece from Sgt. Pepper faced BBC censorship for what authorities interpreted as drug references. The specific line about smoking that closed one section of the song was enough to get it banned from British radio, despite the track being considered one of their greatest artistic achievements.
I saw the photograph.
The song's complex structure and abstract lyrics made it difficult to categorize, but censors focused on any content that could be interpreted as promoting drug use. The orchestral crescendos were even thought by some to simulate drug-induced experiences.
But he was really sure he was from the House of Law.
This ban was particularly significant because it involved the Beatles at the height of their cultural influence. If Britain's most successful musical export couldn't escape censorship, it sent a clear message about the limits of artistic freedom in broadcasting. The controversy extended to other tracks from the same album, creating a broader debate about psychedelic music's place in mainstream culture. Radio programmers found themselves caught between audience demand for Beatles music and pressure from authorities to avoid drug-related content. The ban ultimately proved futile, as the song's reputation as a masterpiece only grew over time. The controversy seemed to validate the track's artistic importance, rather than diminishing its impact on popular culture.
On the way upstairs and had a smoke, and somebody spoke and I...
Number 4. Society's Child by Janis Ian.
She says I can't see you anymore.
This haunting ballad about interracial relationships created a firestorm when it was released in 1967. Written by 17-year-old Janis Ian, the song addressed one of the most controversial social issues of the era, leading to widespread radio bans and even death threats against the young performer.
Can't see you anymore.
Many radio stations, particularly in the South, refused to play the song at all. Others would only air it during late-night hours, when they assumed fewer people were listening. The controversy wasn't just about the song's content, but about Ian's youth and perceived authority to address such serious subjects.
Until they turn and say, why don't you stick to your...
The breakthrough came when Leonard Bernstein featured Ian performing the song on a nationally televised special. The performance was electric, with Ian's youthful appearance contrasting sharply with the song's mature themes. CBS switchboards were flooded with calls, both supportive and outraged.
Can't see you anymore, baby.
The television exposure led to increased radio play in more progressive markets, but also intensified opposition in conservative areas. Some stations received bomb threats for playing the song, while record stores in certain regions refused to stock it. Ian's courage in performing such controversial material at such a young age made her a symbol of the decade's youth movement. The song became an anthem for those supporting civil rights, while its banning revealed the depth of racial tensions that still existed in American society.
Baby, I'm only society's child.
Number 3. Louie, Louie by the Kingsmen. No song from the 60s generated more controversy over less actual content than this garage rock classic. The Kingsmen's 1963 recording became the subject of an FBI investigation lasting over 2 years, all because listeners couldn't understand the slurred vocals and assumed they contained obscenities. The investigation was prompted by countless complaints from parents and religious groups who were convinced the song contained hidden profanity. The FBI deployed agents to analyze the lyrics, interview band members, and even examine the recording equipment used during the session. They brought in audio experts, linguists, and even played the recording at different speeds, trying to decipher what they believed were secret messages. Radio stations banned the song across the country, while record stores refused to sell it. The controversy grew so large that it reached the halls of Congress, where politicians debated whether rock music posed a threat to American youth. Conservative groups organized boycotts, while religious leaders preached sermons warning about the corrupting influence of rock and roll. The irony was that the actual lyrics were completely innocent, telling a simple story about a sailor missing his girlfriend while traveling to Jamaica. The mumbled delivery was due to singer Jack Ely wearing braces and the microphone being positioned too high during the recording session. The band had recorded it in one take for just $50, never imagining it would become the center of a national scandal. Adding to the absurdity, there actually was one genuine profanity in the recording that the FBI never detected. At the 56th second mark, drummer Lynn Easton can be heard saying a curse word after dropping his drumstick, but this went completely unnoticed by investigators who were focused on finding obscenities that didn't exist. The FBI ultimately concluded that the lyrics were unintelligible, but not obscene, filing a report that became one of the most expensive investigations of a pop song in history. However, the investigation had already made the song infamous, turning it into one of the best-selling singles of the decade and cementing its place in rock history. The controversy proved that sometimes the cover-up, or in this case the investigation, can be far more interesting than the original crime. Number 2. Puff the Magic Dragon by Peter, Paul, and Mary. This gentle children's song became one of the most unexpected casualties of the war on drugs, when Vice President Spiro Agnew targeted it as part of his crusade against rock music's alleged drug propaganda in 1970. Despite being written in 1962, the song faced retroactive scrutiny for supposed marijuana references. Critics pointed to various elements they claimed were drug-related. The word puff itself, references to autumn mist and the character Jackie Paper, whose name they interpreted as drug paraphernalia. The fantasy land of Honolulu was said to represent a drug-induced state of mind. Even the dragon's retreat to his cave was interpreted as coming down from a high. Peter Yarrow and Leonard Lipton, the song's creators, spent years defending their innocent children's story about growing up and losing childhood innocence. They repeatedly denied any drug references and expressed frustration that their harmless fantasy had been so misinterpreted. Yarrow pointed out that he didn't even know about marijuana when he wrote the song in 1959. And puff that mighty dragon, he ceased his... Several countries banned the song entirely. Singapore and Hong Kong prohibited it within their borders, taking no chances with what their authorities viewed as Western drug propaganda. Some American radio stations removed it from playlists despite its popularity with children and families, while others relegated it to children-only programming. The timing of the controversy was particularly unfortunate, coming during the height of Agnew's campaign against drug culture in music. The vice president had declared war on rock music, claiming it threatened to sap America's national strength. In this climate of fear and suspicion, even the most innocent songs became suspect. So puff that mighty dragon sadly slipped in. The controversy highlighted the paranoia surrounding drug culture in the late 60s and early 70s. Authorities were so concerned about hidden messages in popular music that they were willing to attack even the most innocent-seeming songs. The fact that a children's lullaby could become a political target showed how deeply the culture wars had penetrated American society. Years later, the song's vindication came through its continued popularity with families and children. Parents who had grown up during the controversy introduced it to their own children, proving that sometimes common sense prevails over moral panic. The dragon that was supposed to corrupt America's youth instead became a beloved character in children's literature and television. The magic dragon lived by. Number 1. The Unknown Soldier by The Doors. For the unknown soldier. The Doors' anti-war masterpiece became one of the most controversial songs of 1968, facing widespread radio bans for its graphic portrayal of warfare and its challenge to American military involvement in Vietnam. The song's stark imagery and political message made it too controversial for most mainstream radio programmers. The unknown soldier. Jim Morrison's dramatic vocal delivery and the song's sound effects created a powerful anti-war statement that many stations felt was inappropriate during wartime. The track's theatrical elements, including simulated gunshots and military drums, were considered too disturbing for general audiences. Morrison's performance style, which included dramatic pauses and whispered vocals, made the anti-war message feel like a direct assault on American foreign policy.
Make a grave for the unknown soldier.
Military bases banned the song entirely, with commanding officers issuing direct orders that it not be played on armed forces radio or in base recreational facilities. Many commercial radio stations relegated it to late-night programming or avoided it altogether, fearing backlash from pro-war listeners and advertisers. The controversy was intensified by the Doors' already notorious reputation for pushing boundaries.
Bullet strikes the helmet's head.
The song's music video, featuring Morrison in a mock execution scene, was deemed too graphic for television broadcast. The visual imagery of Morrison falling as if shot, combined with the audio message, created a multimedia assault on war that authorities found threatening to military morale. Television producers worried that such images would demoralize troops and their families.
Television, children fed.
The political climate of 1968 made the song even more inflammatory. Released during the same year as the Tet Offensive, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., and violent protests at the Democratic National Convention, the song seemed to capture the chaos and disillusionment that many Americans were feeling about their country's direction.
The war is over.
Radio stations that did play the song often received angry phone calls and letters from listeners who viewed it as unpatriotic. Some DJs lost their jobs for including it in regular rotation, while others played it only as part of late-night counter-programming aimed at college students and anti-war activists. The banning of the song only increased its power as a statement piece. Underground radio stations, college DJs, and anti-war activists embraced it as an anthem of resistance, proving that censorship could sometimes amplify rather than silence controversial messages. The song became a rallying cry for those who opposed not just the Vietnam War, but the broader military-industrial complex that Morrison and the Doors criticized throughout their career. These 10 songs represent more than just musical censorship. They capture the cultural battlegrounds of one of America's most turbulent decades. Each band tells a story about the fears, prejudices, and moral panic that gripped authorities as they watched traditional values challenged by a new generation of artists and fans. The irony is that most of these controversial songs are now considered classics, their supposed dangers seeming quaint by contemporary standards. The attempts to silence them only increased their cultural significance and helped establish rock music as a legitimate form of social commentary. These bands also reveal how much power radio stations, television shows, and government agencies once held over popular culture. Artists had to navigate a complex web of censors and moral guardians to reach their audiences, often sacrificing artistic vision for commercial viability. Today, these songs serve as reminders of both how far we've come in terms of artistic freedom and how quickly moral outrage can transform harmless entertainment into dangerous propaganda. They represent a time when music truly mattered enough to scare those in power. The teenagers who fought to hear these forbidden songs are now grandparents, but the spirit of rebellion they represented continues to inspire new generations of artists willing to challenge authority and push boundaries. If this journey through rock's most controversial moments brought back memories of sneaking forbidden songs past your parents or discovering banned music through underground channels, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more stories about the music that shaped our culture. Let us know in the comments which of these banned songs you remember hearing for the first time, and whether you understood what all the fuss was about.